Our next guest has been on the show countless times, bringing us some of the best, worst, and downright weird food trends. But he has had a secret motivation all along.
My mom and I have always been super close. My mom means everything to me. In 2005, I moved to Los Angeles from New York. Despite that, I would talk to my mom regularly, every other day. Around 2010, she would complain to me that she was starting to experience brain fog, which is not something that I had ever heard before. Talking to her was almost as if I were talking to a much older person. It seemed as if her brain power had seriously downshifted. She was about 58 years old at the time. A couple of months later, my mom announced to the family that she had been having memory problems. And my dad chimed in. He said, "What year is it?" And my mom couldn't recall the year. That was the moment that, for me, everything changed. I knew I had to step in and take matters into my own hands. That led to us going around the country to some of the top neurology departments in the United States. Ultimately, we found ourselves at the Cleveland Clinic. It was there that my mom was diagnosed with some strange form of dementia that feels like having Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's disease at the same time. After the diagnosis, my priorities shifted and I was on a mission. I wanted to understand why this happened to my mother, and at such a young age. And I had a hunch that it had something to do with her diet. I spent every day reading scientific papers, reading books, watching TED Talks. I began reaching out to scientists all around the globe. I ended up visiting labs in some of the top research institutions in the world. I almost had a moral obligation to start spreading the word about the research that I was reading about. At this point, I've written a book, I've filmed a documentary, but at the end of the day, this is all motivated by the fact that I wish my mom was well, and I'd give anything to have her back in good health, truly.
Please welcome nutrition trends expert, author Max Lugavere, and also, might I add, wonderful son.
Thank you so much. I mean, just watching that, that's the journey. I mean, like in 100% accuracy. The top most storied academic institutions, cathedrals to modern medicine, when I went to those places with my mom, desperate for answers, I experienced the same thing every time, what I've come to call diagnose and adios. And that's because for the vast majority of neurological conditions, the brain is a mystery. 90% of what we know about Alzheimer's disease, which is only the most common form of dementia, we've discovered only in the past 15 years. And one of the most shocking discoveries that I made is the connection between Alzheimer's disease and type 2 diabetes. We now know, when you look at statistics, that 2/3 of US adults are either diabetic or pre-diabetic. And if you have type 2 diabetes, your risk for developing Alzheimer's disease increases anywhere between 2- and 4-fold. But even if you're not a type 2 diabetic, anybody is ultimately at risk.
Well, in your case with your mom, did she have type 2 diabetes?
My mom didn't. So that's the thing, is that type 2 diabetes and Alzheimer's disease, they seem to be sort of inbred cousins of one another. If you have type 2 diabetes, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're definitely going to develop Alzheimer's disease. And people with Alzheimer's disease can develop it without having been a type 2 diabetic. But nonetheless, what precedes type 2 diabetes by decades is something called chronically elevated insulin. When you have levels of that ancestral hormone called insulin in your body chronically elevated, right? That can precede a type 2 diabetes diagnosis by a decade. And 40% of Alzheimer's cases might be owed to chronically elevated insulin, whether or not you are a type 2 diabetic.
And a lot of what we eat drives whether or not we have these massive surges in insulin or not. And that's where I'm sure came up with the concept of genius foods.
Yes.
And I think as you're speaking, it makes me feel a little bit sad about medicine, because we will take a disease like dementia and say, there's no treatment. Really what we're saying is there's no pill, but there are treatments. And that's part of what you're spreading the message of. It's when we say on this table, okay, let food be your medicine, not your poison. And so you've got some real, true genius foods that you've researched that you think we should all be eating every day and help us hopefully stave off dementia, or God forbid someone in our family has been diagnosed, may help decrease the rate at which it progresses. Is that fair to say?
Exactly. There are steps that we can take that are going to minimize our risk.